All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome, welcome. My name is Sylvia Ramos, and I am so happy to welcome all of you to our national convening for We Are STEM and CTE in the middle grades. We're going to be focusing today on how we really center student and family voice as we build equity in STEM and CTE, and how we incorporate that into our continuous improvement and planning process. So thank you all for being here today, for joining us. I will be facilitating alongside a wonderful group of colleagues today. We've got part of the NAEP management team, which is Kathleen Fitzpatrick. She is helping us to not just run the PowerPoint, but also helping us to connect to important resources in the chat. And we've got Mimi Lufkin, who is our CEO Emerita and also our interim CEO. And I'm also joined by all of the co-PIs that are a part of the We Are STEM and CT and STEM in the middle grades. And that includes Tammy Getz from the Utah STEM Action Center, William Sprankles from Butler Tech. We've got Angel Malone from the South Carolina Department of Education, and also Carolyn Zachary, who'll be joining us from the California Department of Education. So thank you all again for being here. And we just want to make sure that we take a moment to see who is joining us in this space today. So I'm going to invite everyone to please make sure that you have your name and your institution in your Zoom screen. And also want to take a moment to get us to really think about how to connect to the work that we're going to be doing today. And I wanted to invite all of you to share one word in the chat to describe how you feel when you know you've made a difference for a student, or when they have done that for you. I know that for me, sometimes those moments are one and the same. One where I get to make a difference for a student, and they also teach me something as well. So let's just take a moment to do that. See, I think we've got folks from all over the country today. I see North Carolina, Kansas. We've got folks obviously from Ohio and Utah, Iowa, some of everything it looks like. So yes, please continue to share that in the chat. And we can go ahead and I like what I'm seeing here, inspired, passion, gratified. And I think that's in response, obviously, to the things that we experience with students. So that's great. I also want to make sure that we take a moment to connect with folks who may not know who NAEP is and what we do. So NAEP is the National Alliance for Partnerships and Equity, and our mission is that we exist for you. We exist to make sure that we're connecting you with resources that's going to help you build your educator capacity around issues of equity, so that we can together ensure that students are experiencing equitable student outcomes, that we are working towards educational equity, and that is also connecting to and resulting in a more diverse and inclusive workforce. So that's a little bit about us. And how we go about doing that work is in a variety of ways. So many of you have come to know us through our professional development offerings. And we also provide technical assistance, as well as research and evaluation. And last but not least, public policy and advocacy. So I welcome any of you who are new to NAEP to go to our website and learn a little bit more about all of our different offerings, again, in these 4 areas. And now we can actually go over our agenda for today. So we're going to go over the We Are STEM and CTE in the middle grades, tell you a little bit about how we came to be and what our goal and purpose is. We're going to also talk about one of NAEP's new documents and resources, which is our Equity in CTE and STEM, where we look at root causes and strategies that folks can use to think about how we, again, eliminate inequities in these spaces. We also have the privilege today of getting to meet Laniece Reynolds, who is the Executive Director for Shades of STEM. She's going to talk to you about her journey and how she came about developing that incredible organization that's been recently featured on Good Morning America for all its great work. And then we are going to ask Laniece to join us as well with the students for our student and family panel, where we're going to talk to students about their experiences in the STEM and CTE space. And they're going to share both their successes as well as some things that we could all do differently to help eliminate barriers in those spaces. We'll have a brief moment to do Q&A. And then we're going to talk to you about how you can get involved with We Are STEM and CTE in the middle grades. So at this time, I'm going to hand it over to my colleague, Tammy Getz, who's going to go over what is We Are STEM and We Are STEM and CTE in the middle grades and what we're all about.
Thanks, Sylvia. I appreciate that. And welcome to everybody who's joined. I'm excited to be here. And so, probably several years ago, I think it was several years ago, the National Science Foundation recognized that with the statistics at hand, that there was a need for more inclusive and diverse STEM and CTE or career and technical education efforts. And so with that in mind, they created the program Includes, which for those of you who may not remember this, it's a pretty hefty acronym: Inclusion Across the Nation of Communities of Learners of Underrepresented Discoverers in Engineering and Sciences. And the overarching goal of the Includes program is really to broaden participation in STEM with groups that we typically don't see looking at STEM as an option. And so the mission of the Includes program ties very closely to Perkins 5 with the Perkins Act, which really focuses on serving underserved students, which includes girls, Black, Indigenous, and people of color, individuals with disabilities, and individuals from challenged or low-income backgrounds. So as a kind of a form of an overview very quickly, the program that we are working on currently within Includes with the planning grant is the We Are STEM and CTE in the middle grades, which again, as we all love acronyms, stands for reflects Workforce and Education Alliance to Realize Equity in STEM and CTE. Thus, We Are STEM and CTE in the middle grades. And when we say middle grades, we are looking at grades 5 through 10 for those of you who are wondering. So the overarching goal of the We Are STEM and CTE in the middle grades project is to create a national collective impact network of like-minded organizations at the national, state, and local level that are committed to systems change that creates a culture of success for underserved students in STEM education and career and technical education in the middle grades. And so with that, we are in the planning phase, as many of you may already know. And as part of that planning, we're focusing on 3 elements of the collective impact model. We are looking at a shared vision with goal setting, a strong focus on building partnerships that are meaningful and intentional and serve the purpose of the project, and then also identifying goals and metrics that can help us to measure the progress and outcomes of the National Alliance of Funded. So with that, I would like to introduce, if I could, oops. Oh, there we go, thank you. So the project includes, of course, the National Alliance for Partnerships and Equity, or NAEP, as our backbone organization. And Sylvia Ramos is our leader, our fearless leader in that. And then we have several PIs, co-PIs on the project. And those include Peter Callis and Carolyn Zachary from the California Department of Education. Angel Malone, who is the Director for Career and Technical Education with the South Carolina Department of Education. And then William Sprinkles, who is with Butler Tech. And I know that he has got his fingers in all sorts of oversight of innovation work at the college. And then myself with the Utah STEM Action Center. And so then if we move to the next slide, the model, the organizational structure to the We Are STEM and CTE in the middle grades project, like I said, is built upon or kind of modeled after the collective impact pillars. And so we've used that collective impact model to create work groups, to structure our planning, and to help build our partnerships. And very quickly, I wanted to give everybody, so you can see that these are the pillars of collective impact. And the focus, of course, as I said, were partnerships, and that particular work group I oversee. And we are working to find partners that align to the goals and the vision and mission of this project. We'll identify proposed partners, develop a process for looking at assets that these partners are willing to bring to the table that will support the project and help build capacity for the proposed alliance. And so then if we move on to goals and metrics, Peter Callis with the California Department of Education is overseeing that particular work group. And the goals and metrics their group is charged with efforts to design the way success are going to be measured, as I said, and reported within the alliance. So this is a very important group. They'll help identify existing indicators that are going to be used by the partners, and the data collection systems that will allow us easy access to common data elements, which are very important to the collective impact model, of course. And then let's start my notes here. Okay. And then if we go to the kind of, I guess, the input structure for the project, I'd like to move on to that because I know we have limited time.
Okay.
Thank you. Thanks. Okay, so during the planning period, our partners with NAEP created different points of input so that we can all engage easily, much more easily and efficiently with our critical stakeholders in a number of ways throughout this planning period. And so all of these input flows, as you can see, with steering committee meetings, partners group meetings, our assets that we will collect as part of our partnership work group, network convenings, and then also through crowdsourcing for a much larger cast of the net, will all feed into the strategic plan for the creation of the proposal that will eventually be submitted to for NSF to consider for a National Alliance project. Okay. And then one of the things that we'd like to share with you that we do have approximately 30 or more partner organizations that are committed to working with us. And they are all helping us to understand the current challenges and opportunities that we are committed to for creating equity in CTE and STEM. And again, as I said, the ultimate goal of this is to submit a proposal to the National Science Foundation for a National Alliance project. And so the National Alliance is really, the big purpose of this is to create systemic changes for equity in the middle grades for STEM and CTE. And we are now at the midpoint for this project, which means most of the work is going to take place through participating in our work groups, which is a big component of this planning. And so, as I said, I gave you a couple of examples with partnerships and the goals and metrics work groups. We all have a specific charge within those work groups that will help inform and build out the strategic plan and ultimately the full proposal. And so we all have been given a set of questions, a set of tasks in our work groups. And as you can see on this slide, we are asking people for commitment to work on these, to help support the work groups and their efforts, their monthly meetings, and we ultimately all be contributing to the creation of the full proposal. And there will be virtual convenings, which I believe is, this is a December one, I think, Mimi, I see on the slide. And then the final proposal is due in January for the National Alliance submission. And then I believe our last slide, and this is probably the most important slide for all of you. How do you become a partner, which we all encourage. You're here because you want to participate, you want to be a part of this, we hope. And so the best way to do this is to log on to the website for NAEP and click Become a Partner under the Get Involved prompt. And then once you complete that, you'll be connected to a work group chair, and they will be more than happy to give you details about their work group if you should choose to help with those efforts. And so the point of all this is to make sure that we understand what's happening in the CTE and STEM ecosystems that's resulting in inequities. But we also want to do that in partnership with our students and our families. And that's why we're here today, is we want to hear the voices of these students so that we can learn from them. They are the ones doing the heavy lift, and we want to hear how we can help make that lift easier, and hear about what challenges they've had that can help us understand where we go with this project, and strategies we can help other students achieve, how we can achieve equity for all of our students. So to set the stage for that conversation, which we're really excited to hear from our students, Mimi's going to share NAEP's newest tool that shares evidence-based strategies for creating equity in CTE and STEM. So it's all yours, Mimi.
Thank you, Tammy, and thanks to all of our partners in this work. I'm glad to see so many people here today. And, you know, it's always fun to be in the position where you're standing between my co-presenters and the students, who is the people we really want to hear from. So I'm going to make this quick so we can get to that part. And I just wanted to highlight for you all a new tool that we released a few weeks ago that is very relevant to the work that we're doing here. And that is called Equity in CTE, Equity in CTE and STEM Root Causes and Strategies, a Call to Action. This is a document that's focused on a distillation of the research literature around the root causes that students face to accessing STEM and CTE. And it's really designed and developed for practitioners to understand how these barriers can really create a lack of opportunity for students to engage in STEM and CTE. So it's organized in 4 sections. The literature sort of played out into these areas: root causes that affect educational access, root causes that affect both career development activities in an educational setting as well as career access, how communities engage with schools and how schools engage with communities in order to eliminate these root causes, and ways in which each one of us, adults in the system, as well as how students can engage in really looking at how to build self-efficacy, self-agency, and self-determination, mindset, stereotype threat, et cetera, how those things affect student engagement and our own implicit biases in regards to who should be involved in the STEM, CTE and STEM ecosystem. This document offers a tremendous amount of resources around the strategies for implementation. So we hope that after today's presentation, you might go back and take a look at it and see how it can help support the ideas that you walk away from here with. What we know about all of this is that students are at the center of this work. And we have 3 principles that we use to apply all of our work, and those are articulated in this document. And that is that we know we want to approach this work from an asset orientation, that everyone brings with them their own resources and their own values that we need to incorporate as we move forward. We also know that how important it is that we understand that systems are not neutral, and that the system is designed to create the outcomes it has created. And so in order to really impact equity, you have to look at this from a systematic lens and really thinking about how do we change the policies, the practices, and the systems that exist. It's not about changing necessarily the students that are in the system. The outcomes they're experiencing are as a result of the system in which they have been attempting to interact. So I'll be curious to hear about what our students have to say about that. And lastly, we really focus on grounded action. And what that means to us is that it isn't about what we think, it's about what students think and the experiences that they are having. So when you start to think about bringing together teams of people to engage in planning around improving your systems, we encourage you to bring student voice to that table in a meaningful way. And so all of that is incorporated in this document and more. So when you have an opportunity, please go take a look at it. And I think it will support a lot of the things that you'll hear from our panel today. And at that point, I'm going to pass it back to Sylvia to introduce them and to get on with the best part of the program.
Thank you, Mimi. I appreciate that. I have the pleasure of introducing one of our presenters today. Laniece Reynolds is the Executive Director for Shades of STEM. And I've actually asked her to join our student and family panel because I think one of the things that impressed me so much about Laniece's work is that she understands that in order for us to really understand how to support the student, we must not only listen to the student, but also be incredibly connected to the families and the communities that help to shape the students. And so I am going to turn it over to Laniece to introduce herself, tell you a little bit about Shades of STEM, and I think the incredible ways in which they are creating equity in the STEM very early on in children's lives through what I would call the village model. So Laniece, welcome.
First of all, thank you for having me. I am excited to be here. I'm talking about something that I'm super excited about, that I believe in, the importance of family engagement and promoting our students in STEM. And I would like to share my screen.
You can do that at any time, Laniece.
Thank you. Where is play? Where's play? Where's play? And I'm going to push play. Is this it? Oh, here it is right here. All right. So I'm with Shades of STEM. I'm the founder of Shades of STEM. And our goal is to introduce students to STEM careers. Now, we are STEM parents. I have 5 children and all of them went into the STEM field. We have a psychologist, a PhD candidate in cancer biology, an electrical grid planner, a real estate investor, and a chef that uses his science background to make different culinary delights. So the wonderful thing about this is that a lot of them are non-traditional, what we would think of STEM. However, you have to have a strong math or science background to be successful in any of those careers. My goal was to close the wealth gap. And I know that one way to close the wealth gap is through STEM careers because they're one of the highest paying careers coming directly out of college. So the best way out was STEM. And I saw that with my own kids. Now, Shades of STEM is a bridge for children of color to be inspired to pursue STEM careers. And we do this through connections, education, and exposure. We know that through exposing children to various STEM careers, they begin to see themselves in those careers, as well as it begins to normalize STEM as an option for them. But one thing that I understand is the best way to reach your child besides family engagement is through millennial mentorship. And here's some examples.
My name is Derek, and I am a Shade of STEM.
And what is your title?
My title is IT Network Administrator.
So what do you do?
So basically, I help fix computers and as well as maintain the company's infrastructure and controlling the network.
I am Brianna, and I am a Shade of STEM. And I am a second-year doctoral student specializing in cancer biology. So what do you do? Like I said before, I am a second-year doctoral student, and so I am en route to pursue my PhD. And specifically what my research is looking at is breast cancer in African and African-American women, and essentially elucidating the biological factors as to why breast cancer occurs higher in these populations. So we know various social, economic factors, so on and so forth, but what are some more underlying genetic factors as to why this occurs?
Yeah, I am Taufik, and I am a Shade of STEM. I'm a program manager for a major tech company. And as a tech program manager, my job is to manage the people involved in developing a product as well as the features associated with that product and make sure that no matter what, it's a success. I find the job very rewarding because not only do I work for the most valuable company in the world, I also get to work with some of the smartest people in the world. I get to work on products, some projects such as different games, different tech products or software that impacts hundreds of millions of people around the world. And I get to talk to these people and see what they think about these products and things like that.
I am Lauren, and I am a shade of STEM. And I'm a real estate investor. As a real estate investor, I can buy homes and flip them, which means to renovate them and then sell them, or I can buy homes / condos and rent them out to prospective buyers. My job is rewarding / exciting because I'm able to provide a comfortable living experience for maybe a family, a college student, but I'm able to make sure that they feel safe and comfortable wherever they are.
I am Naomi, and I am a shade of STEM. I'm a pharmacist. I currently work in retail pharmacy. So I am what you would traditionally think a pharmacist is, a person behind the counter that you elect to prepare your prescriptions for you, mostly when you're sick or have some sort of disease or thing that needs to be treated either chronically or acutely. My job is amazing because I touch many lives every day. I think on an everyday basis, I fill about 300 prescriptions for 300 different people. And all of those people depend on me to make a difference in their lives, to help them live better and healthier lives.
Now, no matter how great my program is with millennial mentoring, hands-on experiences, I cannot reach the families and children that I want without family engagement. Family engagement is a game changer. And you need it for expanding and diversifying your world of STEM. And the great thing about it is that it crosses all socioeconomic backgrounds. I saw that poor education and lack of encouragement. There were 4 reasons that I saw didn't have to happen because if you had parent involvement. But let's look at this list right here. Less likely to have an access to quality education, not encouraged to pursue these subjects, less likely to think that they wouldn't succeed. And if you had family involvement and family empowerment and just parents just knew just how important they were and just how their kids could do well in these careers, look at the 4 that wouldn't be an object anymore because they would be encouraged. Parents could do that. Less likely to think they wouldn't succeed. Parents have the power to show their kids that they can succeed. Role models. So that's why parent engagement and involvement is so important. Right here, it actually says, they took a survey, PISA did. My parents are interested in my school activities. And you look at the kids who said strongly agree and look how well they scored in comparison to children who felt their parents strongly were not interested in their school involvement. And I said felt because it could be a perception, because another survey was taken and said that 99% parents do want to be involved, but they just don't know how. And especially with STEM, because with STEM, there isn't a lot of right or wrong answers. You know, parents just need to be experts. They don't have to be. They just need to know how to encourage their kids. And because it's not like math, right or wrong, yes or no, or literacy, then it's not as easy for parents to become involved in helping their kids, so they don't feel comfortable with it. Now, one of the things that I know initially that I had difficulty with was when I was putting together programs, I didn't know how to incorporate parents into those programs, or I would invite parents and they wouldn't come. And, you know, just sharing this with my colleagues, I know that that's a lot of our issues. Our strategic plan is serve more youth. We tried family engagement, they don't come. Our parents are busy or overwhelmed. But the thing is that we can't stop trying. We just have to figure out a different way to reach those parents. Here I put 5 strategies to increase family engagement. put family at the center. We need to listen to their concerns. We need to learn what they need to know, build a trusting relationship, and provide a program and solicit their input for the programs. Equity and inclusion. Empower our parents again, provide resources for them, and show them where they can actually get information and research. The STEM ecosystem. Need to provide, and that would be the philanthropic community, corporate policymakers, and STEM practitioners. We need to support and empower our parents. Prioritize and commit resources to professional development, family engagement, and of course, mentoring. And then after all that, we need to evaluate the impact of it. We need to measure it, review the return on investment, get parent feedback, and get student outcome studies. And after we've incorporated all of that or some of that, then we have a family engagement program. I know that family engagement is very difficult and challenging at times to put together, but no matter the best program you have will not be as successful if we do not involve parents and empower them with information. Thank you. Do you have any questions for me? And if so, you can just put them in the chat and I'll be glad to answer them.
Thank you, Laniece.
You're welcome.
I think we've also shared a couple times the Shades of STEM website so that folks can see the different types of activities that Laniece offers in her community through Shades of STEM, everything from the educational opportunities to the kind of mentor relationships and connections that she creates for the students. I think that you'll find they're incredible. I think what she shared in terms of the videos and the testimonials from the millennials who are already in the professions is just a small example, but definitely I encourage you to check out the website. And if you have any questions, please feel free to put them in the chat. At this time, I'm going to ask my colleague, Angel Malone, to join me alongside our students because we're going to go ahead and move into our student and family panel portion of the program. So we've got a few folks with us today. We have got Manahal Haroon, who is from Butler Tech in Ohio, Hakan Carey Parduk, who is from the Beehive Science and Technology Academy, and Takiyah Mccleary, who is a recent graduate of Spelman College and is getting ready to engage in a fellowship at Emory very soon. And of course, Laniece Reynolds, who you've just met. But Angel, if you wouldn't mind introducing yourself and your role within the We Are STEM and CTE in the middle grades, and then we can jump right in and let the students start to introduce themselves.
So good morning, good afternoon to everyone. I'm Angel Malone, and I am the Director for Career and Technical Education with the state of South Carolina. And in this grant, I am happy to be a PI and leading up the work group of mutually reinforcing activities. So determining those activities from partners that help to broaden the participation into areas of STEM and CTE. And glad to be a part today.
Thank you, Angel.
Okay.
So we just want to start out with the very first prompt, which is just to tell us a little bit about yourself and how you have come to arrive to be a part of this panel, again, in terms of your STEM and CTE journeys. And oh, go ahead. Go ahead, Manahal.
Sorry, I wasn't sure. My name is Manahal Haroon. I am a recent graduate from Butler Tech Bioscience Center here in Cincinnati, Ohio. And I ended up on this panel through my principal, Dr. Abby Cook, who's on this call as well. I saw her. And Dr. Sprankles, who were kind enough to have me connect to all these wonderful people. It's really great to be here, and I'm excited for this panel.
Thank you, Manahil. Takiyah, would you like to go next?
Hi, everyone. My name is Takiyah Mccleary, and like was stated earlier, I am a recent graduate of Spelman College, where I got my Bachelor of Science in Biology. And I am here by way of my former principal, Miss Angel Malone, and I'm so excited to be here with you guys today.
Excellent. And last but certainly not least, Hakan.
Hi, everyone. My name is Hakan Kadiparduc, and I'm a prospective senior at Beehive Science and Technology Academy in Sandy, Utah. And I ended up at this panel speaking through my principal and vice principal at my school, Mr. Kablan and Mr. Oguz. And I'm very glad to be here today and talk about my CTE experience with all of you.
Well, thank y'all for sharing that information with us, and we're glad to have you as a part of the panel. So tell us about, and any of you can start with this question, tell us about your perceptions and misconceptions of STEM and CTE, and how those things have influenced your journey so far. You have so much to go, but so far. Anyone can start.
Personally, I was under the misconception that the STEM and CTE classes offered at my school would be very boring, but I was also excited to take these classes because they actually teach real life skills, and I don't think that the classes in our regular education system do that enough, so or amplified enough. So currently in our educational system, we are just told to memorize certain information and circle the correct answer on tests. And it is very rare that we come across classes like the ones directly related to STEM or CTE, in which we learn skills that we could use on a daily. I mean, just my first semester, junior year, I took General Financial Literacy, which is a CTE pathway class. And last semester, I started working, and I used the skills which I learned in General Financial Literacy to prioritize my budget and learn how to finance my money better. And it's really helped me better in ensuring that I'm getting the most out of my paycheck. And I mean, that's just one example in which I'm seeing the benefits of these CTE classes. Yeah. And just the perception that the classes were boring has been completely debunked by the implications that I see of the information I learned in these classes in real life. It's not boring at all.
Yes, I definitely agree with Hakan. And to add on, another misconception that I not only used to think myself, but I hear a lot, especially when I tell people I majored in biology, like, oh, well, STEM, that's not necessarily doesn't allow for creativity. But what I have to say to that is I've done research where I can make my own, basically my own project and be as creative as I want about what do I want to study, what do I want to look into with this STEM project. And have been some of the most rewarding projects that I've worked with, and just being able to, I guess, define myself throughout my work. So what I most recently researched was uterine fibroids and how that affects Black women. And so that was, for me, able to be creative, do something that I was interested in, and incorporate the STEM knowledge that I gained at Spelman.
So one of the biggest misconceptions and perceptions that I hear, not only around me with other students, but also what I came in with in career tech having, was, I guess, the workload, and that it wouldn't be rewarding, because with being in the career tech education programs, you do have your traditional high schools that you also have to keep up with, and managing that can be very hard. And I know when I initially started junior year, a lot of my peers, they had kind of the same problem with workload and stuff like that, but it was easy to manage as soon as you got into it. I mean, junior year, it was an easy transition for me and a lot of my friends. And then also another misconception was not getting the reward that you would out of career tech programs, that So we have career tech programs in my own high school, and they would be classes that you could take added on to your other classes. And a lot of students didn't see these classes as classes that would benefit them, or if they would even get any credit out of them. But I eventually took Butler Tech, and I ended up getting 32 college credit hours. So I would be going into college as a sophomore. So to have that, I started off with a misconception of, not even getting the reward, but I come out with not only high school credit, but also 32 hours of college credit. So that was a huge thing. And it's not just me. I know so many more of my friends who have more than that, and it's just crazy.
Wow. I'm just going to say really quickly, Sylvia, I wish I was like you all in, small flex, William. I wish I was like you all in high school to have the work ethic, and in college, the work ethic, being able to think about my finances and utilizing the skills that you have to make the world better and to find yourself at the same time. You all prove why CTE and STEM is so important.
Absolutely. And I would, I'd like to go off script because I think several of you mentioned something that would be important for us to really learn from. So Manahal, you mentioned a minute ago that there was a misconception, but there was obviously something that allowed you to even consider the path that you've taken. So I'm a little bit curious about what was that thing or a person or circumstance that got you again to overcome your misconception?
So I definitely went in with expecting a lot from the classes that I was taking. I started off freshman year as in the program that I was in was PLTW Biomedical Sciences. So I started off freshman year in my traditional Lakota East High School, and they had Butler Tech classes. That's one of our satellite programs that they do with a lot of the schools around here, is that they offer those classes in the school as well as freshman and sophomore, and you can continue taking them and just transfer. So I had started off in freshman year, and as soon as I got into my sophomore year, I realized that this class that I was taking, I wasn't even aware that it was like a career tech class or a STEM class. And after being in it for like a couple of years, I realized that, I can continue this and have it even more challenging, because I wasn't being challenged in that class. I felt like it was just another extracurricular. But going to and visiting my campus, Butler Tech, I realized that I could not only get what I was getting from the books and the textbooks, but also get some hands-on experiences. And I've always wanted to be, out in the world. My parents are a little strict, so they didn't allow me to work during high school years, but I always went out and I was like, okay, I'm going to do this volunteering. It's not work. I won't get paid for it, but I'll get experience. So seeing that I could do that at my school, and my school could be the way for me to find these opportunities, was my biggest lean towards Butler Tech.
Thank you. And I'd love to hear again from Takiyah and Hakan also, again, what was that one thing that got you to consider it? I think, Takiyah, you mentioned a little bit about your path. It sounded like you were able to see a real world connection to you, right? And that could exist within the field as well as the opportunity for creativity. Can you tell us some more about that? And then Hakan, I'd like for you to also share a little bit about what helped you to overcome that misconception.
Sure. So for me, my senior year in high school, I started doing research at Claflin University, and it was nicotine metabolism, research with my research advisor. And I mean, it was interesting, but I knew that wasn't what I necessarily wanted to focus on. So once I got to college, I looked for a research mentor, not only who looked like me, but also who was kind of interested and aligned with the things that I was aligned with. So I found my mentor, Dr. Beatrice Thompson at Clark Atlanta, and I would walk from Spelman every day across the street to Clark. And at first, she would just mentor me and tell me the things that she did to, find her journey and find her path. And then we actually started doing research. And she was very flexible. She allowed me to really pick journal articles that I was interested in and different research proposals that she would be working on. She would say, hey, Takiyah, like, come look at this. And so I would say she was definitely a driving factor for me choosing, okay, I definitely want to do something in research specifically, but also I want to cater it towards Black women because I am a Black woman, and that's, you know, a lot of the issues that we were studying and reading in these research articles are things that could potentially plague me or my family or just the community that I grew up in. So that was kind of the aha moment for me, like, yes, this is definitely something I want to do. So for me, it was a mentor.
Hakan?
Sorry about that. For me, what helped me overcome my misconception that these CTE classes were boring was when I saw the implications of the information that I learned in these classes in other departments of my life, or my high school career. So my second semester of junior year, I participated in a bunch of competitions, more specifically directly related to the CTSO. And the one, and the club that I saw the most implications in was HOSA Future Health Professionals. It's like this health-based club where you could compete in a bunch of health-based competitions. And that same semester, I actually took Introduction to Health Science, which is a CTE pathway class. And I just signed up for one of the competitions without thinking of it. I just thought it sounded cool. I didn't really study for it. I just wanted to see how well I would do. And without studying at all, with just using the information that I learned in my Introduction to Health Science, I was able to qualify for internationals just for that one competition. And the rush that I felt from that, the rush of thinking that I was pretty good at something without trying, just really showed me that this is not boring. This has broader implications than I ever thought about. And it's because of all the information I learned in that class and all my success in HOSA that I decided to start EMT training.
Wow, that is that's amazing, y'all. Your experiences thus far. So I want you to think about that first day going into high school, right? Because y'all have all been a freshman before. What's the one thing we're trying to attract more people like you into these fields and to have these experiences? What's that one thing that you would say to your former self, that freshman, to get involved in STEM and CTE? And what would you tell all these people listening on how to attract more students, young students, into the field? Anyone can start.
I would say words. I believe words of affirmation and just words in general when it comes from teachers, because just knowing myself and my friends and people who I'm around, we really value teachers and we really respect what comes from them, especially when it's something that's positive and it's really uplifting. So I believe that if a student or if a teacher sees potential in their students, or if they just see that if they see that if a student wants to go into STEM or something like that, or career techs, anything like that, I think a teacher, if they would encourage them to reach out and do look at the different opportunities and options, then I think it really makes a difference. And just telling them that you are good and you could do it would help a lot, because I did start off my career tech journey in freshman year, but I didn't realize I was in career tech until my teacher made me realize that this is a career tech program and you could do more through it if you went out and reached out, and I ended up doing that, and it was a lot of help for sure. So as I said shortly, words of affirmation and just making sure that the student knows that they are able to do that and they should, and that they have options.
I could go next. Personally, what would have helped me, I'm just speaking from my freshman self, personally, what would have helped me motivate to take more CTE related classes was if I heard personal anecdotes of successes of people that strived after taking these CTE classes, or decided what they wanted to do with their lives after taking these CTE classes, and were moved by the information that they got in these classes. Because it's just I was very clueless my freshman year, and I didn't have the opportunity to take as many CTE classes as I wanted to. We were just kind of given like a couple and mandated to take those, but there wasn't like a lot of creativity or flexibility in the CTE area or CTE classes department. And if I heard how useful these classes were from other people that took these classes, I would have been able to go to the higher position in my school and possibly push them to open these classes and open up the interest of, or broaden the interest of the students that wanted to do something with their lives, if that makes sense.
What I would tell my freshman year self would definitely be to take advantage of every opportunity, even if it doesn't seem like something that I may initially be interested in. And then what I would say to you all is to create these opportunities for your students. So some of the things that I happen to do in college and throughout high school, some of the programs I just bumped into it or, just came across it. But you all should be the ones that the students are bumping into, like, hey, I'm interested in STEM. Okay, well, have you heard of such and such program? And get the students involved and give them information, and then definitely follow up. Because a lot of times you might say, oh yeah, I'll look into it. And then, a couple of weeks go by, you forget, you don't think about it anymore. And then it would definitely help if the teacher's like, hey, I remember you said such and such. So first, it shows the student that, oh my gosh, they remembered, they recognize who I am, they care about what I was saying to them on this particular day. And then it reminds them too, like, I should go check this program out. This could potentially be a good program for me. And that's with a lot of things in life in general. You might say, hey, I'm going to do something. And then a couple of weeks down the line, you forget completely what it was about. So I would say create these opportunities for your students and then follow up, check in, see how it's going for them, and just be that resource for them.
Thank you all. That you've given us a lot to, I think, to think about and a lot to consider in terms of our roles in creating a more equitable STEM and CTE space. And some of the things that I heard were how critical it was to be able to find teachers who really believed in you, who were affirming, so that you could be resilient and also pursue your interest in something that may not always be clear to you. I also heard that it's important for students to really understand more about how to access these opportunities to make sure that we have them available for you. And one of the things that I'm curious about is that, every journey has its set of challenges and barriers. And I'm wondering, and I think it'd be great for us to understand, what have been some of the biggest obstacles that you have faced in your STEM and CTE journey? And then what is it that you've been able to tap into to overcome those obstacles? Again, anyone can start.
For me, a big barrier in my CTE pathway was having very small classes, and having very small classes eventually led me to become less motivated in putting in the effort, because I didn't have any friends to like rant to about the class or about the teacher or anything. So it just like made my motivation go like blop, I guess. That's the best way. That's the best way I could kind of explain it. But to overcome this barrier, I stopped depending on my friends and instead more on my teachers and developing a good relationship with them, because they will always be there, but my friends aren't a guarantee. So whenever I didn't understand something, whenever I was unmotivated, I would just go to my teacher. I'd be like, hey, do you have any resources that could help me become more motivated or learn the subject which I'm not motivated to learn about? For example, in Introduction to Health Science, we were learning about anatomy and the bones. I didn't care about the bones. I was not excited. I was not interested in learning it. And then my teacher found this game online where you could play and you could earn points by clicking on the right bones, by selecting the femur on the human body, on the skeleton. And that's what, I mean, it's just small things like that that motivated me to to learn more and just stop creating obstacles for myself that I could easily avoid. But that was just me. I wish I had bigger classes too as well, but it worked out at the end, and it's helped me become more independent as a person.
For me, a challenge, and I really didn't face this challenge until I got into college, but I feel like it would be noteworthy to start talking with your students about it now. I felt like imposter syndrome a little bit because I was coming from high school. I graduated valedictorian. I was used to making all A's. I had college credits. And then when I got to Spelman, everybody else had the same thing going on. So it wasn't necessarily a competition, but it did make me feel like, okay, am I in the right place? Like, is this for me? And so as I would go through like some of my classes, some of my colleagues or classmates would be answering the questions on the first day. I'm like, well, I haven't even ordered my books yet. So it was definitely overcoming this imposter syndrome. And I try not to use that word, but that's the best way I can explain it. But either way, the way that I overcame it was just to take everything a day at a time, just to understand like I am a fast learner. I do catch on quickly. So maybe at the beginning, it may take me a little longer than the other students, or I might have to pace myself, but I know that in the end, I'll eventually get there and it will all work out. And another way I had to deal with that was go talk to a couple professors, go to a couple office hours, send out a few emails. And sometimes it just took that outside of class moment where we might not even be talking about work. We might just be talking about a challenge that I faced, and that professor gave me a few encouraging words and I held on to it. So sometimes that's all I needed to just keep me going and get me away from that imposter type of feeling.
That's very good information to know and hear from all of you. And a nice segue into a question from the chat from those that are listening. And that is, Takiyah, you talked about going to talk to your professors. I'm going to switch it to your counselors. Were you all able to learn about CTE and learn about STEM courses and pathways that were available from your school counselors? How did they help you or not help you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can start off with that. I had an awesome counselor first year, junior year, and second year. She was awesome. I actually had two different ones. The junior one, they had to retire sadly, but I had a great counselor, and she always went beyond like we would go there for one question and she'd have like a billion answers for us. I was able to work with my counselor at Butler Tech, and actually I was nominated for presidential scholar nominee in CTE, and I was able to work with my counselor one-on-one. I was in that office like all the time. I'm sure my friends thought something was happening, but it was just for that. And it was just such a great time, and seeing that she was so willing to help me and make sure that I was doing the best I could. It was her first time doing all of that as well, because she was new into it, and it was just so crazy with Miss Becker. She was just awesome. And I think most of the counselors in CTE are like that, because we don't when we transition from our homeschool to our CTE, we kind of lose that connection with our homeschool counselor at Butler Tech. So being with that counselor there, she was really helpful in knowing that, there's also all of these opportunities with CCP and college credits, but there's also CTE, and you can do all of these things. And then scholarship wise, once we got to senior year, it was just, she was definitely very helpful. Yeah.
So for me, I wasn't aware of the CTE classes and programs when I was in high school, but I attended the High School for Health Professions. So we did have dual credit classes offered over the summer at Denmark Tech, as well as throughout the school year at Orangeburg Calhoun Technical College. And we also had phlebotomy tech, medical assisting, I believe, and a CNA class as well. I didn't get a chance to take advantage of those classes because I was taking my AP and dual enrollment classes, but I'm not sure if that will fall under CTE, but my school guidance counselor and my principal really were the ones helping us trying to figure out what type of classes we may be interested in and getting us enrolled. So
Personally, I feel like it was my entire school staff that were dedicated to opening up classes that my schools that the students in my school were interested in, because my school still to this day does not have that many CTE classes. So if somebody does show an interest in a CTE class, the entire staff kind of just jumps to it and tries to make it happen. For example, just this last year, or no, sorry, 3 years ago, we opened HOSA at our school. And HOSA had a huge turnout. It is right now the biggest biggest participated club in our school right now. And our chapter advisor of HOSA saw the interest in health and decided to open a health science CTE class. And it's just so like I wouldn't really put all the credit on just my counselor. I would kind of just put it on everyone, because I just like how well my school works together in ensuring that ensuring that they open up classes that the students are interested in and that they can broaden their horizons with.
Thank you all for sharing that. That's really important. I think, Laniece, did you want to offer something?
Well, I was going to say, you guys are so ahead of the curve, and I am just so impressed. Do you think that it would have been beneficial if you would have had the opportunity to see or meet people in the areas in which you guys are interested in now when you guys were younger?
Mm-hmm. Definitely, yes, definitely. When I was like in elementary or middle school, that would have helped a lot, because I got into high school and realized that, oh, there's all of these opportunities. If I had known earlier, I think I would have definitely pushed myself to even more opportunities. Like Hakan has been saying about HOSA, there was HOSA in my high school when I was a freshman, sophomore, but I wasn't really aware of it. And then by the time I actually realized about CTE and all the opportunities, that's when I got into knowing about HOSA. And I was able to take advantage of it in my senior and junior year, but it would have been great to have known about it earlier, so I could have prepared myself in middle school going into freshman year.
Thank you for that.
I feel like it would have been very beneficial to me if I actually knew a lot of surgeons personally, because I'm going to be a surgeon now. But if I knew a freshman year or middle school, I would have been able to shadow earlier. I would have been able to build on that interest and maybe even potentially push my school into open classes or courses that could help me become the best possible surgeon in the world or something.
Sure. And you will be.
Thank you.
And I definitely agree with what you both have said. I think that would have just been more motivational for me, or just more inspirational overall, like that, just how this person was able to get to this step, I can do it as well. So I think that definitely would have helped.
Yeah, personally, my inspiration, I mean, to become a surgeon, it's kind of lame, but Grey's Anatomy. I watched Grey's Anatomy. I learned about surgeons, and I was like, oh, that looks cool, but this show isn't realistic. So I decided to do my own research, and I was like, wait, it's even cooler than Grey's Anatomy. And I actually spoke with a couple of surgeons myself on the phone, and yeah, that's how I'm building on my interest on becoming a surgeon.
No, that's amazing, and it's exposure, and you just happen to get exposure from Grey's Anatomy. So that's an amazing story.
Yes, it actually makes me think that that's something else that's really important to share. If Manaho and Takiyah could share, what is keeping you inspired, or what inspired you to pursue what you're pursuing?
Definitely my connections that I was able to build. I didn't know, I always knew I wanted to be a doctor and everything, but not until I got to get hands-on experiences and go to local hospitals through my CTE program was I able to know that like this career is for me, this environment, I like being in it. If I'm not at home in my bed, I'd rather be here. So just knowing that, I knew that I was willing to do that. And yeah, I feel like if anyone was put in the environment that they, or just, if someone has a dream and they know that they want to do this job, if we put them in that environment and put them around the people that are doing it, just, they don't have to be doing that actual job, but just in the environment doing something else and observing others, I think they could definitely know that is this for them, is this for not for them. So that was my biggest take away from all the opportunities that I was able to get from CTE.
And I would say my inspiration and what's keeping me inspired and motivated definitely would be like my family, because I'm over here breaking generational curses, y'all. I just feel like I have this obligation, and one that I'm not ashamed to hold to my family, that I have to exceed, I have to do well, and I have so much support, and so many people are rooting for me. My aunt and my cousins, they'll text me like literally every day, you know, what's going on today? And it's I know it's because they're not necessarily used to it, but I appreciate it so much that these people are rooting for me, and that really just keeps me grounded and keeps me going.
Your whole Spelman family is rooting for you.
Thank you.
That's so true. Being first generation, it's definitely so true. Family, and then that is one of the biggest rewards as well. I mean, my family is the only one here from my country. I'm from Pakistan, and everybody back home, when I graduated, I was the first person to graduate from high school from my family, and just all the support and the rooting, and it's just like crazy. And I just want to keep building on to that, because you kind of get addicted to that attention and like clapping all the time. So I'm like, okay, I got to keep doing this. And then just younger siblings, I have 4 younger siblings, I need to make sure that they stay on that track as well. So family definitely is also a huge motivator for me as well.
I don't know if you all can tell, but there's a lot of love coming through on the chat. People on the call just really proud and excited for you all. Hakan, I'm sorry, I interrupted you.
Oh, you're good. I'm kind of in the same boat as Minalha right now. I'm the only person from my family in Turkey to actually study in America, and I just feel this privilege and this obligation to make them all proud and take advantage of all the opportunities that I can take advantage of here that I otherwise wouldn't have in Turkey. For example, here I can literally take college classes in high school. Like, the idea of that is insane in Turkey. That, like, I mean, they're just like continuously cheering me on. They're just like, wow, you're so cool. You must be a genius. And it's just the inspiration and the motivation that I get from that and making them proud. It makes me want to keep going and break new links and new records and become the best possible the best possible version of myself.
I think that kind of shows us what we're here to talk about too, because these opportunities that are becoming more and more normal for a lot of us are not the normal for many people around the world. And that's just crazy to me, the fact that I can easily graduate high school, which so many other students with me did, and that's a privilege in many other countries, is what's really the powering movement and the motivation behind everything as well. It's just, yeah, that's I just wanted to say that, because I know many of my cousins back home and everyone, it's just like they don't have these opportunities. They have the bare minimum, and I'm out here getting all these opportunities, and I want to make sure that even here in the United States, students are able to see that. And that's why I tried my best to be advertising Butler Tech as much as I can as well, because it definitely is. Yep, always wearing the Butler Tech merch to let people know. And but yeah, it still hasn't hit me that I have graduated. I'm the first one to do it, and there's a lot more to follow, and I hope that continues.
Well, and all of you are really bringing up something right now that is also incredibly important. You've talked about what your accomplishments have meant and the ways in which your families have been able to both celebrate you as well as encourage you. So as we're thinking about how we can create more equitable spaces with STEM and CTE, and what it might look like to do that in partnership with the students' families, what would be your advice to those of us who may be wondering what are the best ways to partner with students' families to make sure that we are all standing behind you and rooting you on and supporting you to pursue your dreams in STEM and CTE?
Personally, I'd say like listening to the students, and I mean, I see this everywhere. where adults just generally think that they know everything at all times. And this generally just leads to more biases and more issues regarding making connections or fostering a cooperative relationship with younger people and their students. I know it sounds simple to just listen to your students or listen to people that are younger than you, but there's been so many times where I tried to push someone older than me in like my school department to open up opportunities for people like me that are interested in getting the most career prep as possible, and I just been ignored. Whereas if they actually just listen to me, they just listen to me and they try to make what I wanted to happen, that they would be benefiting many people, not just myself, if that makes sense.
Makes a lot of sense.
And I would also say, just letting your students know that this is a safe space. And a lot of times when I would go into some of my courses, I remember one in particular was my women's studies class. And that was probably one of my favorite classes I took at Spelman. And our professor, every Friday when we came in, it was Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, we would have like a little 5 or 10 minute powwow. And she would just say, this is a safe space. If you have something on your heart that's weighing you down or something good, it doesn't have to be anything bad. Just share. And we would share. And the girls in that class were I fostered some of my best relationships with the girls in that class just from some of the conversations that we had. I remember one day in particular, a girl was upset she didn't have any more meal swipes. And meal swipes is how you get your dinner. And so we all came together and gave her some meal swipes. So it was things like that stuck with me. Just letting your students know this is a safe space. You can feel comfortable here. You can talk to me and I'm not going to, run and tell everybody, oh, well, such and such can't even eat tonight. That's not what it's about. It's really about just letting them know that you care and that you're there for them, and that and the other students, if they're willing to participate, they can be there for each other as well.
And I'd like to add on like the family perspective to it, because I do believe that, yes, students are the ones making their decisions and choosing for them. But at the end of the day, I've seen that I was a part of a lot of when students wanted to transition into CTE programs, I got to talk with them and kind of promote my program. But I also saw that a huge part of that decision to be in that program was coming from their families and their parents, because they were the only adults in their life that they really talk to and communicate and make big decisions through. So I feel like educators and people in CTE really need to focus on families and the parents and making sure that they understand what is being offered to their children as well. Because my parents definitely did not realize what I was getting myself into. They had a huge misconception about CTE and career technical. They definitely thought it was like plumbing and stuff like that. And I had to really explain to them that that's not what I'm going into. This is going to be really, they kind of took a risk, but it was all worth it at the end. But I think that parents definitely need to be a focus as well, because at the end of the day, not a majority, but definitely a huge handful amount of students do end up not coming into CTE because their parents are not well educated about the programs and stuff like that. And a way to do that, I feel like, is more education and more advertising to parents, not just students. And I saw that with Butler Tech being really out and about advertising to parents and focusing them on this year and the new coming students as well. So I think that would be a great thing to focus on in the future.
That is, I think, so incredibly important, because I think generally speaking, parents want their children to have all the opportunities available to them. And too often, I think, Laniece, you shared this, it's a matter of you can't advocate for your children to be able to access something that you don't either understand or have any awareness of, right? So thank you for reminding us that it is important to really think about what is the messaging, not just for students, but also for families, right? Because families are a significant part of what helps to shape a student's decisions, and also again, they can be incredible partners in thinking about how to reinforce information or reinforce opportunities as students are going through all of these different decisions, both in STEM and CTE. I see from, I'm looking at the chat, and Carolyn Zachary, who's one of our co-PIs in this work, is saying helping parents understand CTE is important. Important to talk to families early, elementary and middle school. So I think there is some growing awareness and still a lot of work to be done to think about how we partner with families and students. And I don't want to lose sight of some of the other pieces also that I think you all have shared. Hakan, I really appreciate you being willing to share how important it is that we think about how we show up to listen for your input, and what it looks like to ask and also sincerely consider your feedback. Because I think I heard you talk about how you had an experience where you felt like it was brushed aside, right? And that I think can also influence how students may participate in an invitation for feedback in the future. And Takiyah, I think you mentioned the importance of having an educator, a faculty member who understood the importance of creating community and safety, a sense of belonging in the space, even outside of the content, right, that's being taught. What that does for, I think, creating an environment that is really conducive for learning. It's just really incredibly powerful. So, so what might be your parting words? Again, thinking about, we've got educators on the call, we've got folks who are in all levels of the educational system and in the STEM and CTE ecosystem, so in and outside of schools. And we're all gathered here because we recognize that there are significant equity issues and representation issues within STEM and CTE. And we want to be able to put together a proposal when all of this is said and done, where we've taken your insights and your experiences. And we want to know, what is it that we should be focusing on in order to create equity in STEM and CTE? That's a big ask, but I'm wondering if you could leave us with some places where we should be focusing and work that we should be striving towards.
So to students that are listening to this call, I would just advise all of you to speak with your guidance counselor or with the educators at your school and ask them about CTE courses. And if they offer any, and if they do, try to take any, or if they're not offering any that you're not interested in, push your counselor or your principal to open up these classes and help you reach your career goal, because I assure you it will pay off in the end. We were both in the same boat at once. I also wasn't motivated to take these classes. I also wasn't motivated to ask my educators or my staff about anything related to school. I assure you, once you do, it will pay off immensely at the end. And to the educators, please take into consideration the stuff that your students ask of you, the things that they want to take or achieve by the end of their high school or college or medical school career, and basically just make it happen, because one day after they graduate, one day when all their hard work has paid off, they will come back to you. They will remember you as a teacher that helped push them to broaden their horizons and become the best version of themselves.
I would have to say, just take each student and each person that you come across as their own special case. There's not going to be a one way to help this student or one way to help. Everything has to be personalized down to that student. So just really cater to what they're asking of you. Really try to figure out what is their vision, what is their goal for themselves, and then see how you can kind of fill in some of the gaps, or if you can't, some other ways that you know, or just lead them on the right path. And I feel like if you do that and make sure you come and check in, see how that student's going, and just be as supportive as possible, that will start to foster a good relationship between not only you and the student, but also help that student for their, possibilities in the future. So I would say definitely, help them, stand in where you can, and treat every student as their own personalized case.
And I'd just like to say that the biggest thing for CTE personnel and educators and people who are facilitating these activities and programs, the biggest thing to focus on would be advertisement. I feel like CTE programs have been made to perfection at this point, and what we need would be the perfect advertisement and making people know about these programs and these different opportunities that are out there for them. These students need to be known. Like I really believe that if more people knew about it, there would be bigger turnout and more people would be involved in CTE and STEM programs. But just having this out there for them and their parents and families, and just having students know that this is an opportunity and this is available to them would be very helpful, and making sure that it's worded to a way that would make it easy for them to understand as well, because the way we were going to advertise our program would be, it makes a huge difference. And I think that the biggest thing right now would be making sure people know about CTE, and the more they know about it, the more people would join it. And I think that's how everyone can take advantage of these STEM programs as well.
Thank you. And Laniece, would you like to offer something as well?
I think they've said it all. In fact, I was taking notes because you're the audience that I am trying to reach. And so your information is so valuable to me. So I really thank you guys for sharing it. Your insight is so helpful. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Well, I know that we've got a little bit of time for Q&A, and you've offered so much, but if you have any questions, or if by some chance we missed a question in the chat, please feel free to put that in there right now for any of the presenters. We've got a few minutes. Or you can also unmute.
No question for me, Sylvia. Just an affirmation for the three young people and Miss Reynolds for their contributions and their insight and their wisdom. And y'all was out here. I was texting one of my colleagues that's on the call, and in the spirit of good rap music, y'all was out here spitting bars, dropping just tons of knowledge on this call. It was just really interesting and insightful and fun to hear you guys talk. So kudos to you guys for having courageous voices to move adults. That's what it's about.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And actually, William, since you offered such a phenomenal recap of the powerful words that all of our presenters have shared, why don't I invite you up so that you can share some of the things. Again, I think our students and Laniece shared an enormous amount of information in terms of what might be some strategies that we need to be thinking about. What are some ways that we can show up better for students in building equity in STEM and CTE. But I'm going to go ahead and invite you up to share some of the strategies that are in the NAEP Root Causes call to action document, and also to share a little bit about what you're doing at Butler Tech. And I want to thank you once again to all of our presenters for everything that you've shared today. We really appreciate all your contributions and your insights.
Yeah, so I'll be brief because I don't want to step on the student voice that I think was so significant in today's call. What I heard from the young people that are part of the strategies that NAEP has already researched and endorsed, and you'll find these strategies to be embedded in any significant body of research around what it means to be culturally relevant. So the first thing, right, is as educators, we have to create a culture where your assets are valued and your assets are amplified, and we're able to blend curriculum with what you guys bring to the table, right? So schools can't keep forcing curriculum on young people and ignoring the assets, the cultural values, and the individual and family and cultural identities that young people bring to the table. We have to embrace that and allow young people to arrive at making their own connections. As we as adults have to be learners in that space too. So that's that first bullet point that you see on that slide deck. The second thing is, I think all adults can get better at this inside of most educational spaces. If there's a commitment to student voice, it has to be systematic. It has to be deeply embedded, right? So it can't be just randomly when you need something from young people. It needs to be thoughtful. It needs to be ongoing. And there has to be responses to it all year round, right? Like if young people know they're going to have 4 to 6 or 6 to 8 or 8 to 10 opportunities to provide feedback to their principal, their counselors, their central office, whoever those gatekeepers are, young people are going to start to become more authentic and become more courageous, not just in providing the voice. Schools have to respond to it though. You can't just solicit voice and then not respond to it. You have to be prepared to respond to it when you don't agree with it or when you don't like it. So that's the second item or a second opportunity that can help disrupt some of the root causes that create lack of equity. And then the third one is really the highest degree of what it means to be critically conscious when facilitating curriculum, right? So curriculum doesn't necessarily change anybody's lives, but pedagogy does. And relationships does. And we have to allow the blend of pedagogy and curriculum to take shape outside of the classroom. These have to be projects that critique and support and amplify issues in the local households and local communities. If your curriculum is always wrapped up inside your classroom, kids don't find value in it. So they have to be given the opportunity to engage with curriculum where they can fluidly connect that curriculum to their neighborhoods, to their communities, to their individual or family or cultural spaces. And that might require you as an educator listening to a deep critique of that curriculum. So these are three things that are a whole separate webinar. If you're curious about this work, you heard Mimi at the beginning of this call reference that document that NAEP has produced that gets into the root causes around equity. You can further unpack these. This is also the work of Gloria Ladson-Billings, the famous researcher out of University of Wisconsin. You can Google her research, YouTube her research, and you'll be able to lean into these three concepts at a much deeper level beyond this call. And then finally, something that is a simple way to take today's call. Like on today's call, there's 3, 4, 5 dozens of educators and adults, and we're all coming into this Zoom space in our individual spaces. Like most of us are finishing up our work days, probably if you're on the East Coast. And if you're on the West Coast, you had a long lunch break, and you're intrigued by the student stories. Like I'm intrigued by Hakan's story. I'm intrigued by Manahil's story. I actually want to know more about it. One of the easiest ways that you can get involved with the work that NAEP is doing to provide equity is storytelling. It's simple, right? So I don't know who the point of contact is. Sylvia, I'll volunteer you for the time being, and you can drop your email in the chat room. Sure. But if you have a student in your school district or your organization, and you would like us as part of this grant work to publish a picture or a couple of pictures and a story, almost like the Humans of New York Instagram post or Instagram page, if you've seen that social media outlet on Facebook, we'd love to amplify stories of young people. Like I heard today from 3 young people, they are the first to break the generational divide in their families and get to college. Like those are the stories that because of Career Tech, because of STEM, those stories need to be amplified systematically across all these adults on the call. All of us have an obligation to amplify stories like that. So Sylvia asked me to share something we do at Butler Tech, and we try to do that. We're not great at it. We're getting better at it every day. But in the process of the work that NAEP is facilitating around providing equitable outcomes or equitable systems and processes to access career tech and STEM, if anybody on this call thinks, hey, I got a really cool student with a really cool story, ping Sylvia, get the picture, get a couple bullet points, and we'll help you amplify that story. That's the quickest way for you to plug into this work. It's the quickest way for you to plug in the work. And then the final thing that I would recommend is about 45 minutes ago on the call, just before the student panel, some of the adults were exchanging dialogue around, well, this is what we do at my district. This is what we do at our district. I saw something like that occurring in the chat room. Part of the work of NAEP, which I enjoy how Butler Tech plugs into them, they're allowing me to have access to really some of the most bold and courageous educators in the country, right? So Butler Tech is on this call and I'm learning about what somebody in Utah is doing. I'm learning about what somebody in Cali is doing, what somebody in Florida is doing. And on behalf of the 3 young people that said, here's what we need from y'all adults on the call, I think it's important to plug into spaces where there's collaborative energy. And I personally want to be around other educators that are willing to take the best ideas and create an iron sharpens iron culture and amplify that. Because if I can get another Takiyah, another Manahil, another Hakan to come to our organization, they're gonna change some significant outcomes for lots of people. So those are 2 quick things. If you have an interest after today's call, reach out to Sylvia. She'll get you plugged in as a partner, as a work group leader, or if you're just interested, just follow the work and you'll eventually find the proper connections. End of hype segment right there, Sylvia. How's that?
That's pretty good. And it's a wonderful segue. Thank you, William, for Carolyn Zachary, part of our collaborative, to remind us all of how we can also be involved in the We Are STEM and CTE work. So I'll let Carolyn take it away and we can move on to the next slide.
All right. Thank you so much, Sylvia. And Will, such great thoughts that you had there. That was wonderful. I really want to thank all of our panelists for helping us think through co-creating equity in STEM and CTE. And I think that we should all use our little reaction button and, you know, give them a round of applause or a heart or a smiley face or something, thumbs up. So let's all get those reaction buttons going. And thank you all for taking the time. You know, whether you are ending your day as our colleagues on the East Coast or here on the West Coast, it's lunchtime. And thank you for taking the time to listen to the students and to want to know more about what NAEP is doing. So I want to remind you that you can log into the website and click Become a Partner under Get Involved. And that's where you get all the information. That's how you get involved with what we're doing and to help us further this work. Thanks, Sylvia.
Thank you, Carolyn. So once again, I just want to thank everyone. Kathleen has included the website link where you'll see the button that's highlighted in our presentation. The Get Involved button will create a drop-down menu where you'll get to see all of the different work groups that are aligning themselves to contribute to the overall We Are STEM and CTE in the middle grades work. And you'll get information to make sure that you can be a part of the meetings. Again, each of the work groups will be taking on a piece of the work that will influence a proposal, which will happen in January. So I encourage you to do that. And I'd like to ask us to engage in a parting contribution, if you will, back to the students. One of the things that I am learning about how I can honor the ways in which students show up for us is to let them know what my commitments will be to make the steps and the spaces better for them. So I'd like to ask everyone to share in the chat as a parting activity, what is one thing that you will commit to doing in order to make sure that we are creating more equitable and inclusive spaces in STEM and CTE. Again, I want to thank everyone who's taken the time to be with us for the past couple of hours. And also want to thank, of course, our students, our presenters. Laniece Reynolds, thank you so much for all that you all shared today. And for my wonderful colleagues, I really enjoyed doing this work with you. And we look forward to continuing to engage with you and to ultimately sharing the proposal with you come January. So again, thank you for your time. And again, drop a word in there or a phrase. Again, one thing that you commit to doing today to make these spaces more equitable and inclusive. Thank you. For those of you that are still here, please go ahead and say that a few of the students have offered to connect with you outside of this space to stay connected with them and also to learn about some of the things that they are doing to create more equity in STEM and CTE.